allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a motion for consent tape to hold this down.
They took mine off.
This whole line's coming off.
Okay.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Jackson Township Planning Board January 27th meeting. This meeting is being conducted with the Open Public Meetings Act. All the notices have been put in the appropriate forums and places, and therefore comply with the OPMA. And I will put it off to the chairwoman.
All right, good evening, big crowd. I love big crowds. It means that there won't be too long a meeting. All right, let's have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bernstein? Here. Mr. Marzo? Here. Mr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Riker?
Here.
Mr. Rogers? Here. Mr. Tremor?
Here.
Ms. Rose? Here. Mr. Weingart? Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here. And I'll take a motion for payment of voucher for the recording secretary, please.
Riker.
Let's do a roll call, please.
Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Riker?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Mr. Tremer?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes, thank you. Approval of the minutes from January 13th reorganization meeting, please.
Motion, Bernstein.
Second, Heller.
We need a roll call on that, please.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Riker?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Mr. Tremer?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
And Dr. Campbell?
Yes. We have 4 resolutions, and Ms. Morrison, if you'd read those for us, please.
Planning Board Resolution 2025-01. Resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting preliminary and final minor site plan approval with required variances for conversion of an existing dwelling into a non-medical office building for Shraga Shore, Block 7309, Lot 7. Eligible to vote are Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller, Mr. Riker, Ms. Rose, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell.
We'll have a motion, please.
Motion, Heller.
Second, DeMarzo.
Mr. Marzo,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Riker,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-02, resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, confirming the election of officers, appointment of professionals, selection of personnel, the appointment of the board's recording secretary, and setting the 2025 meeting dates. All regular members are eligible to vote.
Take a motion, please.
Second, DeMarzo.
Okay, Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Riker?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Mr. Tremer?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
And Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-03, resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting preliminary and final major subdivision and preliminary and final major site plan approval with bulk and planning variances and design waivers for 4 private religious schools for 349 Chandler Holdings LLC, Block 801, lots 62 and 63. Eligible to vote are Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller, Mr. Tremer, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell.
Motion, please.
Motion to approve, DeMarzo?
Second, Heller?
Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Treimer?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
And Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
And the last one is Resolution 2025-04, Resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting preliminary and final major site plan approval with design waivers for the construction of two one-story multi-use buildings for contractors, offices, and warehouses for Jackson Land One Ventures LLC, Block 2101, lots 31, 32, and 33. Eligible to vote are Mr. Heller, Mr. Riker, Mr. Treimer, Ms. Rose, Mr. Weingart, Mr. Wall, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell.
Motion, please.
Motion, Heller?
Second, Treimer.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Riker. Yes. Mr. Treimer,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Weingart. Yes. Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
and Dr. Campbell.
Yes. We have one agenda change, Block 4301, Lot 20, Marcia Blomkratz, carried from February 10th to March 24th with notice required. We'll have a motion on that, please. We can do an all in favor on that one. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The master plan, my nemesis for the last year, is postponed. We're awaiting the revised land use section due to the state's required affordable housing portion being re-examined. So we've had to put that off, and we are awaiting council's changes so that we can continue to move forward on that. Another piece of board matter for discussion is some signage issues. I'm sure all of you who live in town are constantly getting people bumping into you at the grocery store or calling or just saying to you, what's being built on the corner of so-and-so and such and such? And I know the Laura's says that their offices get constant phone calls asking what's being built on this corner. A number of other towns have instituted signage that will last from the clearing of the property through a CO. And I've made some, just take a look at these examples. And I spoke to Mr. Poporo today. If you just pass this down, just take a look. So at this point, we're going to request that in the master plan. However, in the meantime, we can ask an applicant to provide this type of signage. We'll give them an idea of the size. They can put on it what they'd like to put on it, as long as it has coming soon, a color rendering, what type of project it is, homes, townhomes, mixed residential, apartments, warehouses, office building, restaurant, retail store. No advertising or phone number is required. The project date of anticipated completion, posted from property clearing until CO is issued, and removed immediately after the project is complete. I think that will make the residents of Jackson very happy, so that they're not wondering, and it will make the town hall people happy, so they could also. So if we include this in the master plan, then it may have to go to council for an ordinance. It may not. We have.
So I was going to ask, is this something that really needs a master plan, or is this something we could pass a council?
We think we can do it from the planning board, but I think council should give us counsel on that.
Well, so there's a number of ways you can do it. I mean, number one, we can make it a condition of approval with, if we recommend it to the applicant, they agree to it, as long as they comport with the sign ordinances that we currently have, and Mr. Purpura, agrees to it. Or alternatively, the township could make a sign ordinance and take it from there.
So, Dr. Campbell, could you send that over to the council president?
I shall.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
I'll bring it to her tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. Yes.
if I may, in my experience, having been in the trade as a developer, I would also add mandatory block and lot number, and also put the resolution number on there. This way, the public can look up that resolution number and find out exactly what is approved, what isn't approved. And also, when it gets to the point, the building permit number, so that if there's a violation or something, blowing across the road or gone awry, they have the proper means to speak with the township in the proper format, rather than waste Laura's time, the business administrator who is not involved in construction, all these places where these calls land inappropriately.
That's a very good idea. Very
Thank you.
good idea. So I'll redevelop this. Would we make a motion on just starting this process so that we're all in agreement? And if you have any comments as you respond.
I'll make the motion.
A second? I'll second it. All right, let's just go for, through the roll, and then if somebody has something to say at that time.
Mr. Bernstein?
I support doing this as a recommendation to an applicant, and then, Michelle, Dr. Campbell, if you could reach out to council president tomorrow by the meeting.
Do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
I would also just like to add to Mr. Bernstein, if we're doing council, I know this is out of our purview, but perhaps even the zoning board for any major subdivisions, which, the same questions, because we get approached also, what's that? Well, oh, that wasn't our board, so maybe we do that as well. So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Riker?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Mr. Trimmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, as a recommendation to council, and also as my colleague, Mr. Heller, stated, that if we could also include the zoning board in this.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Now, engineering and planning matters, gentlemen. Anything on your mind? Thank you. Okay. Agenda schedules, block. Good. Like legal matters, yes, you do have some.
I do have one. So the Mrs. Chairwoman wanted me to kind of give a breakdown as to the classes of members that we have on the board, because we've had some shifting around. So just kind of give I'm not going to go into too much detail to save us some time, but I'm just going to do a quick overview, starting in reverse order, just to kind of give everybody a 40,000-foot perspective of everybody's roles and duties and responsibilities. It's not a whole lot. First, we have the Class 4 members. Class 4 members are just the regular citizens that were appointed to the planning board, and they have kind of the broadest scope of abilities to be able to operate with on the board. They can sit on any subcommittees. The only true test that that prevents them from doing something is really just, it's called the pain conflict test. There's 4 different layers to conflicts that they have to abide by. Typically, it's really not even a concern unless something critical comes up, which we really haven't even come across yet. Not yet. Yeah. Second is the alternate members. These alternate members, we have 2 of them on the board, and they have the same, they're the citizens appointed to the board as alternate Class 4s. What happens in the event of one of the Class 4s being either ineligible or abstains or not being present, the alternate would step in with all the same duties, rights, and responsibilities of the Class 4, be able to vote on the application. They're also subject to the pain conflict test. Then we have Class 3. Class 3, I believe, is Mr. Burstein. He's just the Township Council representative. He's subject to the pain conflict test as well as any perceived conflicts that would come down from the council as well. Class 2 member is Mr. Wall, same situation. He's a representative of the township. He's just restricted to the pain conflict test as well as kind of a rational nexus test to anything within the administration. And then we have Mr. Riker is a Class 4, but he's the environmental representative. We have the Class 1, which is Mr. Ray, and he is the mayor's representative, and he's simply subject to the same thing. It's the pain conflict test, and additionally, it's it's a rational nexus between any perceived conflicts that the mayor may have. So that's really the bottom line to all this. It's not a whole lot. We don't really deal with a whole lot of nuances. When the nuances come up, we'll take care of it and inspect it at that point in time.
Thank you. Also, next meeting is not going to be a regular meeting. There are no applicants. I guess people just couldn't get their acts together for the first of the year. So that doesn't mean it's a freebie, sorry. We will be having a workshop that night on RLUPA, Religious Land Use Law. I guess you should be here, professionals. Also, sorry, no freebie off night. And I think that will be a wonderful opportunity because these things are important that we understand them. And Brett Polden will be here, and he's excellent, and he's not boring. So I think you'll enjoy it. I've heard him speak before, and he's very good. So that will be happening next on the, I guess it's this, what's our next date, the 7th? Yeah, so that will be our next meeting. Same time, same place, nothing different. No buffet will be served, no, sorry. Maybe I'll make dessert or something. Okay. Mr. Pfeffer, you're on. Sorry, we had business. I did. You voted on it.
Beautiful project so far. You like it?
Yes. We're looking for that weather. We voted on it.
Solar panels someplace.
Ready?
Good to go.
Good evening, Adam Pfeffer, attorney on behalf of the applicant. The application this evening before you is seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval for construction of an approximately 65,000 square foot warehouse with an ancillary approximately 8,500 square foot of mezzanine office space. The project obviously is a nice rateable for the township. The property is on the corner of Patterson Road and West Commodore Boulevard. I do have this evening 3 witnesses for you, our engineer, planner, our traffic expert, and our architect. I am going to start with my engineer just to tee up the application and orient you to the site, and then I'm going to switch over to traffic as Mr. Kennel has another meeting he has to get to. The application, just a little more background, is in the LM zone. It's, permitted use as a commercial office, light industrial zone district. We are seeking a warehouse use. We do have one small bulk variance that will be for a minimum front yard setback where 100 feet is required, and we are proposing 94.39 feet. And it's actually only on a portion of the front yard, and we'll get to that. It's due to the size, the shape of the property. At this time, if I can call Mr. Portnoy, I have him sworn in, just orient you to the site, and then we'll call up Mr. Kennel.
Evening.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Joseph Portnoy, Portnoy,
All right, your credentials?
licensed professional engineer and professional planner in New Jersey. My license is good standing. I've been before this board several times.
Yeah. And the board accepts your credentials?
Yes, and you're acting as both planner and engineer?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening.
Mr. Pfeffer, do we want to have the traffic?
Yeah, we're just going to have Mr. Porny just orient the board to the
Okay.
application really quickly, just a quick overview, and
Gotcha.
then we'll have
Yeah.
Mr. Kennel come up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so as noted, the application is for block 2603, lot 27. It's approximately 4.34 acres at the northeast corner of West Commodore Boulevard, which is County Route 526. That's along the south of the property, and Patterson Road along the west side of the property, which is a local road. The lot is currently vacant and wooded. It's in the LM Commercial Office Light Industrial Zone. The surrounding uses, there's an industrial use to the north, there's a firehouse to the east, vacant lot in the NC zone to the south, and to the west, there's a warehouse that's currently under construction that was previously approved. Patterson Road is a local road, of varying width pavement. There's no curb or sidewalk for the majority of that. West Commodore Boulevard is a county road. There are road improvements that are being installed as part of the adjacent project, which we'll discuss further in more detail. Can you bring up the proposed site plan? The rendering? There, thank you. We could bring up this one for now. There's one of focus on site plan. This one does include adjacent warehouse, but okay, thank you. So the applicant proposes to construct a warehouse with a footprint. As Mr. Peters noted, there were some discrepancies with some of the numbers between the plans and the architectural, which will be coordinated. The architect will testify as well. Our proposed footprint is 64,620 square foot warehouse with an 8,250 square foot mezzanine. It's been designed to be divided into 6 separate units for 6 tenants. I'll just go through just the circulation access, and this way we could get the traffic engineer on, and then I'll continue with the rest of the site plan details. There are 2 proposed driveways onto Patterson Road and 1 proposed driveway onto West Commodore. The site's been designed with the loading areas in the front of the site, and there's a one-way ingress driveway from from Patterson Road to allow trucks to access the front loading areas, and there's a one-way egress onto West Commodore Boulevard. There's a separate 2-way access onto Patterson Boulevard for the passenger vehicles for the parking lot. This way, to keep the car and truck circulation separate. And there's also a grass paver access drive around the building to allow emergency circulation around the building. I think at that point, we'll probably give over to the traffic engineer so he can present his testimony. Might be helpful if we go back to the previous slide. Let me just introduce that. This exhibit is showing our proposed development along with the adjacent building that's under construction. The building is for the most part up already. As part of that application, the developer there is constructing road improvements along West Commodore Boulevard, including a left turn lane onto Patterson, road widening along the entire frontage of the subject property, and increased turn radii and allow trucks to make a right turn from West Commodore onto Patterson Road. So the applicant over here has already provided right-of-way dedications in support of those improvements. They work together with their neighbor. Those right-of-way dedications have already been filed, and those, I believe they're starting construction on those improvements shortly. Thank you.
So we're just going to pause Mr. Portnoy's testimony now. We'll call Mr. Kennel up, have him sworn in, so he can give the traffic testimony.
Long time no see.
Yes,
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right. Please state your name, spell your last for the record.
Sure. Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates, located at 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan.
The board accepts the credentials?
Absolutely.
Thank you for accommodating my schedule. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So my office prepared a traffic report on this development. The most recent report issued was dated January 9, 2025. And as part of our existing inventory, we conducted traffic counts on Wednesday, December 13, 2023, from 7 to 10 a.m. and 3 to 6 p.m. to be consistent with the peak hour traffic generation for this site. It also captured the peak traffic from the schools that are located on Patterson Road in doing our analysis. But we considered 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. peak hour traffic conditions, and then in the p.m. was 4 to 5 p.m. And that period basically is outside the school, the Elms Elementary School. That has dismissal at 3:20. So basically, most of that school traffic is dismissed and not competing with the peak traffic from this site during the p.m. peak hour. As far as traffic projections, the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual was consulted, and our report indicates that the site will generate approximately 44 trips during the morning peak hour and 46 trips during the afternoon peak hour. Based on the existing roadway network and existing traffic patterns, traffic is distributed 50% east and west on West Commodore. That's consistent with other studies we've done along this corridor. To evaluate traffic conditions with the development, we considered a design year of 2034, which is consistent with the Ocean County Planning Board protocol of a 10-year build-out, and the considered a growth rate of approximately 10% onto that. In addition, 9 other developments in the area were considered in our traffic analysis. So as a result, basically the traffic volumes recorded in 2023 were expanded approximately 50% to accommodate all the other traffic that has been approved in the area. And then we surcharge the site traffic from this proposed warehouse building onto the West Commodore traffic volumes, and we analyzed the intersection of Patterson Road and West Commodore with the improvements slated that are shown on the exhibit, and also, as I understand it, as part of a warehouse development that was approved just north of this development. The county is requiring them to provide a dedicated left turn lane westbound that'll predominantly serve the school buses that are going to the schools on Patterson Road. So there'll be opposing left turn lanes on Patterson Road when the full intersection improvements are done. And that, again, as I understand, is tied into the larger warehouse development north of our project, which was approximately 235,000 square feet. So when we take all that into consideration, during the morning peak hour, the intersection will operate at a level service D, or approximately 30 seconds delay per vehicle, which is consistent with the Ocean County Planning Board parameters. And during the PM peak hour, we calculated a level service C, or an average vehicle delay of 21 seconds. We also analyzed the site driveways. The site driveways on Patterson Road will operate in A level of service during the morning and afternoon peak hours. And then looked at the West Commodore driveway. And again, the exhibit is incorrect where it's going to be an exit only. I know it shows an arrow going into the loading area. It's going to be an exit driveway. And that's based on our conversations with Ocean County where we have a conditional approval. And that's going to be kind of a low traffic. It's really just going to serve trucks from that portion of the site. And that'll operate at a level service B during the morning and afternoon peak hours that we analyzed.
Excuse me, Mr. Hannah.
Sure.
The exit onto Patterson, that's only an entrance now.
There are two driveways on Patterson, and the southerly driveway will be ingress only,
Okay?
and then the northerly driveway is going to be two-way, entry and exit.
Can that possibly be a no right turn? Because I was there today. Now, granted, that little stretch of road was closed, but that's a very narrow road. And I am concerned that semis will be making a right turn there, could be very unpleasant for the community that lives there.
Yes, we can do that, and that was the same condition that was imposed on the other development, which sits on this property here that's going to be redeveloped.
Right.
And the other reason for that, never mind the narrowness of Patterson Road, but also the sight lines are limited at Right to Bill Road where Patterson comes into it. So
Exactly. I noticed that today.
we have no problem making that a condition, and that's
Good.
a good suggestion.
Thank you.
As far as the parking is concerned, we're providing 78 spaces, parking spaces. There will be 8 EV spaces, and based on the state statute with the 2-for-1 credit, that equals 86 parking spaces, which is then consistent with the Jackson parking ordinance, so we're in compliance. And as far as on-site circulation, that was mentioned earlier, we have a grass paver emergency access, so we can have full circulation around the building to accommodate emergency vehicles. I know that's always a concern of the board. So the site plan has been designed to accommodate that. So in conclusion, this project will operate at good levels of service at the site driveways as well as the intersection of Patterson Road and West Commodore. The parking satisfies the township ordinance, and the site has been designed to provide positive on-site circulation. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? We want to make sure you get to your next meeting in time.
I have one question. Aligning the driveways from the two developments on Madison Road, is that not done due to the emergency services access?
I'm sorry, I don't, what was the question?
Aligning them. You don't align them.
You don't align that?
The microphone, sorry.
Thank you. We don't want the two development warehouse spaces to have an aligned driveway on the north side?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see where that is an issue here because there's not going to be any cross-traffic between the two developments. And also, most of the traffic that's associated with the warehouse building west of Patterson Road will not interfere with our driveway because we're located to the north. So given the low volumes from the two types of uses and the fact that most of the traffic is oriented towards West Commodore and there's no cross-traffic between the two developments, I don't see any negative issues there with the way the driveways are aligned.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
if the board's done,
We are.
I'd just like to help Mr. Shea make a record. I didn't take any exception to Mr. Kennel's testimony, but Scott, could you tell us, West Commodore is under the control of the county?
That's correct.
The intersection's under the control of the county?
Yes,
But Patterson's a township road.
that's correct.
What are the improvements proposed on Patterson Road?
Patterson Road is, I look as a significant improvement, is the dedication that was provided by the applicant on this portion of the property so that we can provide a proper size curb return to accommodate the large wheelbase vehicles. There's also a utility pole there that's also going to be relocated, so basically that's significant improvement there. And then as far as there'll be some widening and some improvements along our frontage on Patterson Road to be compatible with the project on the west side.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant's engineer as well, but from a
We're providing an additional 7 feet of widening along our frontage on Patterson. 17 feet from the center. Oh, 17 feet, okay.
Yeah, the total, it appears from the plans that the proposed curb line is going to be 17 foot off the existing right-of-way center line, which I think is coordination with the project across the street. I just think whether you or the applicant's engineer gets it on the record so it can be part of the resolution, because the township controls that road, not the county. So often you come in and you say, oh, the county's in charge of stuff. That's great. In this particular instance, the road widening requires pole relocation. We'll talk about sidewalk with the engineer, not you. I appreciate the comments that the curb radii going into and out of the site are sufficient to handle both vehicles and tractor trailers. You did indicate that the northerly two-way access point is going to be no right out.
That's correct. I think as it was geared towards no truck traffic making
So
right
is that
turns.
just going to be a sign, or are we going to put some curb up there?
There will be signage.
Okay. As it relates to the access, I guess, out of the site to West Commodore, you indicated that the intersection improvements are coordinated both with this tract, the tract across the street, and the tract to the north, correct?
Correct.
My concern is, what, if any, striping or improvements will occur along West Commodore to ensure that tractor trailers don't try to make a turn into the site? There's some nice centerline striping on that.
Right, and that's going to have to be done by signage, and the county will require the proper signage, do not enter signs, and no left turn signs.
Will that be done as part of this application?
Yes.
Okay, so it's clear that in order to keep people from turning into the site with this application, those county improvements will have to be done. And lastly, we'll speak with the applicant's engineer later. Is there any reason that this site couldn't operate by flipping it and putting the loading areas in the back, from a traffic engineering perspective?
That's a site issue, that's to discuss with the design engineer.
Nothing from your perspective that would
No.
stop this from turning it over? That's all I have, thank you.
You are a mind reader, but I was waiting for the architect. I'm a little shocked that the loading is in the front of the building. 2. I saw it. All right. Mr. Kennel, any other questions for Mr. Kennel? You can hustle off to Buffalo.
Is there anybody, I'm sorry, anybody from the public?
Public. No, the public is not interested tonight.
Motion to open up the microphone for public comment or cross-examination for the traffic engineer only at this time.
Second, Sullivan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan?
I move to close the public cross-examination of this witness.
Seeing that no one has appeared.
Seeing no one has appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Kennel.
Thank you for accommodating.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Hope you only have level A traffic on the way home.
Be careful.
We'll now return to our engineer planner and to
Great.
address the rest of the, or majority of the letters.
I guess let me finish running through the site, the site testimony. I briefly discussed the square footage of the building, the 64,620 square foot footprint, the 8,250 square foot mezzanine. The architect will provide a little more testimony regarding the floor plan. There will be, of this building, there will be 8,250 square foot of office space, primarily located in the mezzanine, but there will be some split, there will be some office on the ground floor, which will testify, the architect will explain. And
just to clarify, that office space will only be used ancillary to the warehouse, correct?
Correct.
Meaning there will be no single renting of any office space to any other tenant?
correct, this is for these,
Make
the
that a condition.
access.
Yes, yes. I just wanted that clear, that people shouldn't think that this is also a standalone office building. It's only office related to the warehouse, each tenant.
The access to the office space is through the tenant space. There's no individual access to the mezzanine space. It's through the shared tenants, through the tenant space. Warehouses are a permitted use in the zone, which permits warehousing and storage of goods, wholesale distribution establishments, offices, and combinations of two or more of the permitted uses in one principal building. And we will comply with the requirements for warehousing, namely no goods are sold retail from the premises, all items are stored within a completely enclosed building, and the warehouse and no storage of hazardous chemicals is proposed, it will be prohibited. If we can go to the other exhibit, the close-up of the site plan. It was the next exhibit. Yes, thank you. Generate there. Okay. So the building, the building, it's where our lot is a corner lot. So we have two front yards on West Commodore and on Patterson Road. Here's our front yard setback line, and we conform with the front yard setback on West Commodore. The front yard setback on Patterson Road cut through the building. There's a slight encroachment on that in the Patterson Road setback due to the irregular shaped lot. There's a bend in Patterson Road which comes in right at that location. We'll testify in a little more detail on the justifications for that. Where 100 feet is 100 foot front setback required, and 94.39 feet are proposed. There's an approximate 200 square feet encroachment in that setback. It's fully conforming with the rear and side yard setbacks, building coverages, and heights. Okay. As we discussed the road improvements, we're proposed curb to 17 feet from the center line on Patterson Road. Proposed road widening and curbing. And as noted, West Common is being proposed as part of the adjacent project. There is no sidewalk proposed as part of this. The applicant is asking for waiver for a sidewalk, and would need to make a contribution in lieu of the sidewalk. The application received conditional approval from Ocean County Planning Board, and with no requirements for additional. If this driveway was going to be egress only, there were no additional improvements required by the county, besides for what was already being installed as part of the adjacent development. Regards to parking and loading, the ordinance requires one parking space per 1,500 square feet of warehouse and storage, one space per 200 square feet of office. With the clarified parking numbers for the 64,620 square foot warehouse, we require 43 parking spaces. For the 8,250 square foot office, is 41.25 parking spaces, for a total of 84.33 spaces. We have 8 EV spaces, which adjust the requirement of 76.3, 77 spaces. We are providing 78 spaces, 33 in the rear parking lot, and 48 in the side parking lot. In regards to loading, there were some questions regarding the loading. We are proposing a loading area in the front, which is 60-foot long truck loading spaces. Each end unit has 2 loading spaces, and the center, the 2 end units each have 2, and the 4 center ones each have 1, and have 1 loading space, and each unit has a drive-in ramp for
Mr.
smaller
Portnoy.
trucks or box trucks to be able to enter, to drive into the warehouse space.
Mr. Portnoy, this is a good time to discuss that.
Yes.
We-
So when we...
This is County Line Road. This is one of the most important roads in our township. It's a road well-traveled. And to put tractor trailers in the front yard is unattractive at best. Now, I'm looking at these plans, and from what I can see, the reason you've done this is the shape of the property. So if you made that end structure, that end building 9,020 feet instead of 17,000 feet, you could just flip the whole thing and put your loading in the back, just as if you go back and look at the other warehouse that's on the same corner, we required they put theirs in the back as well.
So when we started on this project, we reviewed multiple different layouts. The reason that is, with the shape of this lot, with the 2 front yards, with the odd shape along both frontages, there's putting a loading in the back does not provide the opportunity for trucks to be able to circulate and turn around. The property next door was able to accomplish that. Could we go over to that other exhibit again? This warehouse is a much larger site. In order for trucks to be able to turn around and exit, they're providing this large truck turnaround area. In order to on our site, the site is pinched in the front. It's much narrower. The site is much narrower in the front. So sliding the building towards the front, towards West Commodore, results in a much narrower building, and you cannot provide the turnaround area. So it would severely impact the development by flipping it around. We understood that it would be a concern. We looked at multiple options to try and see, but for the shape and for the shape of this property, this layout was substantially more efficient.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Riker.
Okay. Regardless of the configuration of the site, it is what it is. The site was purchased. You knew what it was from the day of purchase. It's been a long-standing tradition here on West County Line Road. We made significant efforts to change at least 3 buildings so that we wouldn't have to look at truck loading docks whatsoever at the front of the building. This is exacerbated more intensely because your building is on a curve. I'm quite familiar with the building on the left because we designed that truck turnaround. That was one of the conditions where we approved it. And if I had to take out my color forms and my pencils and look at your project, well, the right-hand bay could be removed or altered, and you could drive around that building completely. Right. And I think that our board might even be conducive to entertaining a little bit more impervious space if you wanted to pave around that building. And we might consider a design waiver for that. But it is unrealistic to have a property in Jackson in this decade where we're going to look at the front of a truck. There's not a berm big enough for you to do it. It's an excellent project. It's well situated, but unfortunately, it's inverted front to back. So there are some opportunities here that we can make this work. Madam Chair suggested flipping the building left to right to accomplish that. I'm suggesting maybe a quick look at maybe shortening one of those stalls to make them 6 equidistant stalls and possibly drive around the building, because we haven't even touched on that part of it, but that would aid in your circulation and give you much more beneficial use. It would not hurt you whatsoever, minus some square feet. So that would be my suggestion towards solving the problem of looking at loading docks, because we just don't do it here. You know, dock bumpers have never gotten any prettier in the span of my career. They're ugly, and they're even uglier when the trucks are sitting there. We went to some extent to have the trucks behind the building on the left. That's how that application started out as well. So, you know, that is my suggestion. Maybe take a 5-minute pause and see if we can come to some arrangement on this.
Maybe we can hear from Mr. Peters before we make a little break.
Well, a couple of things. First is, it is a corner lot, so there's 3 places that the loading zones can face. They can face West Commodore, they can face Patterson, or they can face a property line. I would note that in the LM zone, and we hadn't really gotten to this point yet, that the location of the loading spaces in a required front yard area, not the front yard setback, but the front yard area, which is from the building to the street, requires a variance. So if they put it facing West Commodore, requires a variance. It's noted in our report. The applicant may take exception to the definitions, but to Mr. Riker's point, it's a design intent not to have them facing the street. Having them face Patterson might not be the worst, might be less worse than having them face Commodore. But again, the other part would be simply to flip it. And flipping it would require probably the loss of some building space. Or, again, if the board is feeling charitable, we could say, listen, if you need to do something to take care of this, what might be a variance or this design standard that, quite frankly, the board members and the residents of the town are looking to the board to uphold, tell us what kind of relief you need to get back to the yield you were looking for. Because quite frankly, I think if the yield was the same, where the trucks go is probably irrelevant to the owner. So I would note that the design itself, except for the loading docks facing the street, appears to meet most of the design standards. Obviously, Mr. Portnoy had started his conversation about needing the 100-foot setback to get a couple of 100 square feet on Patterson. He doesn't have the setback. It's 94 something where 100's required. If at the end of the day, the paramount thing on the board's list of, wish list of things to approve this site plan is to get the loading dock and the tractor trailer parking away from West Commodore, I think perhaps we could be amenable to some other design waivers or variances, not to cause the yield to go down by 20 or 30% because of the odd shape of the other property lines parallel to the 2 street frontages. And that's just sort of not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's something the applicant's ready to present to us tonight with engineering and planning testimony to have these things face the front yard. If the board feels strongly that they don't belong in the front yard, what can we do to make this less onerous on the applicant in terms of yield on the property? So I'm not opposed to the comment that Mr. Riker had made about maybe we need to take a few minutes and see if there's some middle ground that can be reached on this. Or, in lieu of that, we'll go through the entire report, all the other things, try to prioritize the things that are important to the board, and go from there. But I think this is probably the one that we've already heard from 2 board members on, and as I've spoken, I've seen a lot of heads nodding, so.
Any other comments from the board before we take a little break?
I haven't seen a proper landscaping plan. Perhaps that could address it, maybe hide some more the trees, putting on the front loading docks. I looked through all the papers. I mean, I see some trees that you plan on planting, but I do not have any details of where you plan on putting them. So perhaps some tall evergreens there might do it. On the front curbs.
Anybody else have something to say before we take a break?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I was looking at the statement of operations, and it says that all of, this is on spec. So you don't have any defined tenants yet. Is there any way you could make one of those bays, or two of those bays smaller? And at the same distance, each one is 9,020 is for the middle four. Why do you need such big warehouse space on either end, considering this is on spec? What kind of tenants are you looking for?
Anyone else with a comment before we take a 10-minute recess?
Dr. Pamela.
Mr. Tremor.
I'm sorry. I'm going to agree with you guys because I've stated in the past, I find it annoying that we have to shoehorn these huge buildings and I understand every inch of property and warehouse is worth money, but we're just jamming these massive buildings in. You know, I can't even get into the safety part of the way these buildings are constructed, but we're putting people parking right against these buildings, and every inch is taken, you know, and we're not considering the way it looks, the safety of people. I mean, you don't want to do sidewalks. You know, what if somebody gets dropped off in the street? There's no sidewalk. I just think that there's too many corners being cut and you're jamming too much in, but that's just my opinion.
Mr. Sullivan.
Given the people before us have been before this board numerous times, you are all aware that we are not in favor of loading docks in the front of buildings on major roadways in this township. And yet, here we see an application with just that. I think you need to go back and reconsider this. You have 5 minutes to come up with something, but honestly, I can't believe you came before us with this, thinking that this was going to be an easy win, because it's not. Thank you.
Mr. Bernstein.
So I've heard from all of my colleagues before me, so I don't have much to add. But I know it's something that we've worked on even with our master plan subcommittee, is making sure the aesthetics of our main thoroughways, our county roads, is something that we're going to be pushing very strongly in our upcoming plan. And so I definitely concur that if we can move around, I think the board has also indicated, I think the chairwoman indicated before, she'd be okay talking about some other possible waivers if the size of the building is important. But I think the acoustics, obviously, no waivers that would infringe on the safety and obviously the adjoining properties. But I guess if we could look at making sure County Line stays the way we want it to look, I think would be important to this board and to the residents of Jackson. So let's, I think, take a break and let them work on this.
Anyone else before we take a break? We'll take a 10-minute break. I'll double somebody's at 5. We'll have a 10-minute break.
So we've discussed it, we've looked at some comments, we have some thoughts on of how we can move the parking to the rear of the building. We would ask, I know you started earlier by indicating that you have nothing on the agenda in 2 weeks. I know everybody wants to hear the RLUIPA speech. Maybe we'll delay that or shorten that a little bit if we can come back at that meeting. And we will obviously submit the revisions, and we'll reach out to you professionals.
Go through the entire project
Yes,
so that we can
address any other
address any
concerns.
other concerns, so that when you come back, what we'll be looking at is what we need to do to help make this
Yes.
doable while keeping our aesthetics
Yes.
in mind.
So just, I'm not sure if it's necessary to go through the variance standards, because you may not be requesting that variance so it's,
So we can skip that.
yeah, but any redundancy,
Yes.
I just don't want to see you put
Yeah, I would
unnecessary
ask,
testimony.
I would ask Mr. Portnoy to clarify. I think there was Ernie had raised a concern regarding some square footage. We can just clarify that. It's a very simple clarification. I don't think that's going to change. And any other highlights, Mr. Portnoy thinks.
Right, and just so we're clear, so so new plans are going to be presented, sent to the experts
Yes.
for review, and then we can, okay, just as long as everybody's on board.
They need a couple of days to review.
Yes.
We know what we want.
Yeah.
And it would be nice. So, it's a pressure, but then you're not waiting a couple of months,
Right.
which is your alternative.
Understood.
So, what we will do is we will have our LUPA portion first.
Okay.
I would assume it would take less than an hour, given that this board may have questions.
Yeah, I could talk to Mr. Pullman and figure out how long he anticipates it to
And then we'll
take,
get
and
to
then
you.
I can tell you, Mr. Fepper.
That's fair. Thank
How
you.
does everyone feel about that? Any thoughts?
I think that's a viable solution.
Good, good. And Mr. Pfeffer, don't bring us any more plans with parking in the front. We don't like them.
Because I didn't do the other application, so I didn't hear the lesson. But yes, I'm with you.
Okay, good. All right, let's continue then for anything that would not change
Yes.
significantly, Mr. Portnoy.
Okay, so I'll focus on those items. So let's go, I guess utilities is something that would not change. I think we've gone through the load, we just discussed loading, which obviously is the layout's going to change with that. We still have the same intent to have at least one loading at one bay and drive-in ramp per unit, whichever, in the updated configuration. Utilities, there is existing water main in West Commodore. It's being extended up to service the adjacent warehouse. We'll have a public water connection. We already have JTMUA Statement of Utility Service. There is there's no sewer service in the area, so it would be serviced by an on-site septic system. Right now, that's proposed to be in this corner over here. It's likely that will remain, but that's subject to change. But either way, there will be a septic system. There's gas along Patterson Road, so we'll have connection to that. And then the septic, of course, is subject to Ocean County Health Department approval. The drainage will be compliant with New Jersey DEP stormwater rules and municipal ordinance. I'll highlight because these areas are likely not good. There will be changes in the stormwater design, but most of the stormwater is in the setback area, so I expect to be somewhat modified. But in our current design, we have infiltration basins along the frontages, porous pavement in the parking lot, and there's also some additional subsurface for the roof runoff. We expect to be similar in the new design, just things moved around, but we expect to have this similar configuration, probably in the similar infiltration base along the property lines, and likely some more subsurface for the roof area. Any drainage will be privately owned and maintained. Any O&M manual and deed notices will be filed on the property. And the storm sewers are discharging to an existing county inlet in West Commodore, which is subject to county approval. I'll summarize the landscape lighting. It's obviously will change with any proposed layout, but in the current design, we had foundation plantings along the building, along Patterson. We had some plantings there. I know there were some landscape comments from the board professionals. We'll take them into account with anything, and also pay attention to any screening and any revised submission. Right now, we did have some shrubs along the perimeter, some trees in the island, in the parking lot islands, and we will, with whatever we get in, take the feedback into account. The trash will be taken by private hauler. Right now we have a trash enclosure there, but that location is subject to change with the layout. So we'll discuss. There was a waiver for that location, but we'll review that when we come back. The HVAC equipment will be roof mounted and screened, and the roof will be solar ready per New Jersey code. The building will be sprinklered. Any signage has not been designed, but any signage will comply with ordinance standards. And we intend to comply with the clearing, grading, soil fill ordinances. And we'll review that and confirm that when we come back. And the applicant does, the question for the professionals, the applicant would like to have the right to place an office trailer on site during construction. So is there anything else more specific to the layout or variances or waivers we'll discuss when we come back, because those details may change.
Mr. Peters, Mr. Northfleet, anything that needs to be discussed now?
I'd like to see revised plans, so we know exactly kind of what we're talking about. But I think he's pretty much covered, all the outstanding items. Was there any additional, though you had indicated there was going to be a septic disposal field, was there any testing done?
Yes, there was soil testing when we did stormwater testing. We also did testing for the septic system. So that was in the same geotechnical report that was submitted.
Okay. And the applicant had worked through all the technical revisions with the drainage. Previously, he had submitted revised plans. So I have any reason to believe that he can make the drainage work, with this as well. That's all.
I just note that there was a comment in our report under landscaping about the improvements along Patterson. It appears that the grading for the detention basin and the street trees are in the proposed right-of-way. You're going to need to take note of that, because this board can't approve improvements within the public right-of-way. You don't control land, you need rights from the town. So please just check where the right-of-way line is and make sure that your proposed grading and landscaping isn't in the public right-of-way, unless you have some sort of agreement with the town to do that. That's all, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from this board, for this gentleman?
I do.
Mr. Tremor?
All right, in the back of the building, you have grass pavers.
Yes.
You're going to be able to certify that they can hold up a 90,000-pound truck?
We'll
Because we've
provide the certification.
I mean, you're going to have to put a lot of compaction underneath there, which we've, in the past, explained that, these trucks can't turn on them. And, I mean, it's nice that you gave 30 feet. I appreciate that part. But you might want to consider, especially as you redesign it, to have something a little more solid underneath for fire access.
If I could just ask, would the board be inclined to increase the impervious coverage? We're under right now. We are at,
We're slightly under.
I'm not questioning it. I just put it out there just in
No,
case.
so I understand. My point is, if we increase the impervious, we'd be able to,
It would require additional stormwater. Part of the reason to use grass pavers is not just impervious, but it also requires more stormwater management that comes along with it.
I'm giving you a little help here.
So we'll review that because our circulation pattern will be changing depending on how we work our truck circulation.
I mean,
It may-
for fire safety reasons, it may be something to consider. I don't know about that, but
Can you give us an option when you come back?
that's a better way to put it.
That way we can weigh, if you need some tolerance or, yeah.
yes, we will look at it.
We're hopeful that we can make this work. It's not that we don't want it, we do want it. The township is interested in having this type of project. It's in the right place, it's doing the right things. It's not that we're against what you're doing, it's that we want to make it good for the entire town. And aesthetics, the look of the town is very important to us. So it's not that we're discouraging. We will help and make as many things work for you as we can in the variance areas in order to get this project to do what we all want it to do.
Understood, and we appreciate it.
Ms. Rose?
I have a couple more.
When you come back, would you have any type of elevations or renderings as to what the front of the building is going to look like?
You can, if we could go to the last exhibit.
Okay. Very good. I don't have that.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you.
We didn't have that. So
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
and I believe the applicant's going to have a architect to.
We do have the architect here, could
Yeah,
talk.
Not
testify.
now, but at the next meeting, yeah.
we can do the architect at the next meeting.
I have a couple more.
That's fine.
What I'm pleased about is that on the blank side of the wall, which will now be the front of the building, it has some architectural integrity.
Details.
And some aesthetic appeal, and that's fine. Anything from anyone else?
Yeah, I wasn't finished.
Think about building signage. Now that you have someplace to put it.
Mr. Trumbo?
The waste receptacle was going to go in that little grass kick out off the building. All right. Again, my personal thing is sidewalks. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I think you're going to have people coming and going. I look at escape routes again. If anything, people have to get out of the building, they can't get to their cars, they need a place to go instead of the street. Something to consider. What's your total occupancy going to be on this building? People-wise?
Right, so it's, yeah. We'll have that answer for you.
Okay. Reason I'm saying that is because as I'm learning here with the board, I'm trying to understand how we calculate flow with the occupancy and I'm just trying to make sure everything is on there. So maybe if you can provide that, when we come back, how you
No
got
problem.
that formula. What size septic system is going to go in? Do we have any idea?
The square footage or something, I don't have that number.
Right, because Ocean County doesn't dictate that.
It's based, the septic calculations is based on the DP regulations. Ocean County is a review agency and review and approval, but
That's why I'm asking about the flow and everything else, because I'm trying to learn here, and I want to see what we have. The property behind it, that's the steel manufacturer, I believe?
yes.
Is there any way that you could partner up with them? I know we did it on County Line Road, if you need access to turning the building around with the trucks coming in and out. Just suggestion you might want to consider. Because you said they're going to redevelop that one back there, right?
I believe it's another property behind that what,
Yeah, it's a
Mr.
steel
Kennel
man.
mentioned, I think it's the next property past
Right.
this deal.
He's LM, maybe you could partner up with them. Don't know whether it's feasible, but something to consider. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Thank you. Will you be providing a revised description of operations? Because I know I think we're missing some like times of when you're going to be open and those types of things. So I know our planning board engineer has asked for that.
We'll make sure to address anything that's missing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I think we've done good work tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your cooperation. And I want to assure you that the board is here to assist, and our professionals are here to answer your questions too, if that would be of help to you. Please feel free. I'm sure the gentleman would be delighted to hear from you.
So just to be clear, so we'll carry the meeting then to the February 10, I think it is?
7th? 10th.
10th.
February
February
10th. Yes, and you've already noticed.
Correct.
I don't think there's a notice issue. But as long as we have public here, we should have open to the public now in case somebody wants to say anything. But we should do it procedurally.
Well, yeah, open it up for cross-examination,
Open up
not-
for cross-examination for Mr. Portnoy.
I'll make a motion to open up public examination for the planner and engineer, Mr. Portnoy, by the public.
Second, Dreamer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
Seeing no one come forward, I move to close the public cross-examination of this witness.
Second, Riker.
All in favor?
Aye.
Procedurally done. All right. So we'll expect to see you, Mr., I think you don't have to be here at 6:30. We'll set a time.
I'll speak with Mr. Shea.
Yeah, we
Before
can-
the meeting to
Mr. Shea.
get an idea, but I appreciate that, and
Right.
we'll be here. And
Yeah.
so just for the record, so there'll be no additional notice, and we'll agree to a waiver
Yeah,
of time.
Why don't we, what does the board
Well,
vote
let's,
to carry?
let's vote to carry.
I make a motion to carry this application till the February 10th, 2025 meeting.
Second, DeMarzo?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
No notice required, just to...
With no notice required.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good work tonight. That was good work.
Yeah.